uh, it's 4 p.m. and today we are going to do a webinar on campaign against creating awareness against plastic pollution. Uh, Before I do that, let me mention this, that we the we have an organization or an NGO called FCAP, Foundation for Campaign Against Plastic Pollution. This FCAP has been the pioneering effort in forming this foundation, and this campaign is that of Mr. Anup Srivastava. He is a senior government servant, an IAS officer of 1981 batch, and he has since superannuated and retired. But after retirement, he has taken this up as a campaign, as an uh, mission to join hands with so many others so as to reduce the pollution arising out of plastic. Uh, he, over this COVID period, decided to have a series of webinars. And in that series, today, we have this uh, campaign against plastic pollution. And in that, what we have today is somebody who has, in fact, I must admit this, somebody who has inspired me and drew my attention to something like plastic pollution. We are all very educated people. We are part of the civil services. We deal with it in some way or the other. Yet, to be so conscientious about the fact that it can have very damaging impact, not only on the environment, but also on our personal health and that of the ecology and the wildlife, uh, is, for the first time, I became aware through a friend and somebody whom I have known for many years, is Bharti Chaturvedi. Uh, Bharti has been doing this job for many, many years. And she has been one person who has been very dedicated for this cause. Uh, over a period of time, she has almost uh, attained a position which enables her to almost know all aspects of the plastic pollution. I will take little more time to uh, give you all the profile of Bharti. But before that, let me also mention that this Foundation for Campaign Against Plastic Pollution is been run on a very vigorous basis right from February 2019, largely by Anup Srivastava, and he has been joined by many of us. Few of us are still in service working for the government, so we are unable to dedicate 100% to this cause. While we are committed to the cause, but to devote that kind of energy and efforts which Mr. Srivastava has done to the cause is probably not comparable. Uh, this foundation is responsible for creating awareness about the harms of plastic pollution and exhorting people to minimize the use of single-use plastics, as well as to resort to best practices for safe disposal of plastic waste. Now, this in itself will be covered today, that what will be the what are the best practices for the safe disposal of plastic wastes. Uh, Aim is not only to stop plastic pollution, but whatever has already happened, to mitigate that damage by probably introducing, best practices like recycling, where and also becoming aware of its very harmful impact on our health and that of the ecology. For that, Bharti is joined by Dr. Joshi as well as by Mr. Santu. And as we come to them, I'll introduce them separately to the audience here. Uh, Let me also talk now a little more about Bharti. Uh, Bharti, as I mentioned to you all, has been dedicated to this cause for a very long time. And she has been uh, engaged with this cause not only through actual campaign, but also she has been doing, uh, writing about it, and has been running an organization which is called Chintan. Chintan is an organization which has been, it's an organized way of handling this problem. And uh, she has not only done the actual campaign and practices, but she has been writing about this. Uh, there is a column which appears in Hindustan Times, and you would have all seen it. It's called Greenpeace, which is written by Bharti. Bharti has this Chintan is probably among the first India-based non-profit organization which has uh, uh, shown deep understanding of how to work out the uh, the campaign against or the methods against the plastic pollution, or to reduce it. Uh, it is that deep understanding which requires, very three linked issues: resource efficiency, circular economy and waste, and air pollution. It is also uh, an organization which launched its first report, a printed report in 2004 called Plastics, uh, which is Profiting from Pollution. The title of it itself should give you some taste of what we are about to hear from Bharti. Uh, Chintan has been well recognized. It has worked with issues with UNEP, UNDP, National Geographic, and various arms of the Government of India. The work includes research, advocacy on one hand, and practical solutions on the other. One important example is Pick My Trash, which is a service run along with the waste pickers so as to collect plastics and e-waste from the RWAs as well as offices. Bharti herself is Masters in International Public Policy from Johns Hopkins University, and the university awarded her with the prestigious Alumni Award, Knowledge for the World Award in 2009. She has also received the globally recognized LEAD Fellowship and is a fellow at Synergos Institute, New York. Bharti services on the board of several organizations, including the Delhi Pollution Control Committee, and she has a range of awards, including one which is as an acknowledgement of empowerment of girls and women by Hillary Clinton, as well as UNFCCC award for mitigating the climate changes. As I mentioned, she has been writing a column, Greenpeace in Hindustan Times, which is so educative. And that is where actually first time I realized that with what kind of work Bharti is associated. She has also written a book, Finding Delhi, which is a book on the capital city published by Penguin India. And her passions include bird watching and contemporary art practice. Of course, during her passion of bird watching, I have met her on few occasions in those greens which she and I both, were doing, looking at the birds and looking at the greenery all around. With that, uh, I'll request Bharti Chaturvedi, to explain to us uh, about the work which she has been doing, and she has gone so many miles ahead in creating awareness against plastic pollution. Bharti, please.
Thank you, Balesh. That was very flattering. Indeed, I mean, I mean, it sounds better than it is, as you know. But I want to really thank you for inviting me. And it's a real honor finally to be able to meet all of you. I've always wondered how to find Anoopji because I've been trying to reach out to him and see how we could work together. And I've never managed. And it's quite amazing that one fine day, this kind of invitation just comes in and everything falls into place. So I hope this talk is just the beginning of a long and happy association in combating plastics. And I'm really grateful for this opportunity. I thought today, Balesh, instead of telling everybody about Chintan, I thought it might be, I mean, I was specifically thinking, it might be quite interesting for me to talk a little bit about why are we not being able to, reduce plastic waste in this country. And I will throw in stories as we go. So by way of background, Chintan looks at environmental solutions, at sustainability with a focus on fighting poverty, creating jobs, and finding sustainable solutions. So we work in the area of waste, which includes plastics, on air pollution, which is very topical right now, and resource efficiency and circular economy, which is a little more esoteric, and it's not at all like recycling, but it's about how to use a material and keep that in circulation. And in all of these issues, we look at jobs, human health, livelihoods, gender is a very big focus. But again, what solutions can we set up that last for a long time? And Chintan has two very different parts of it. One part is a very policy, outreach, research-driven part. And then there's a much larger implementation section. And the two are bridged primarily through a data bridge, as you can say, because we get a lot of data from our research and a lot of data from our grassroots work. And we use all of those to understand what the gaps are, what are the challenges, the reality on the ground. And often we work on, on policy, on policy gaps, on policy advocacy. And I'm quite proud to say that we've had quite a good impact on policy. But as we all know, all these impacts are short-lived because in the span of 10 years, 15 years, there's always a setback and you have to learn to start the work from scratch and all of that. Now, talking about what Chintan does on plastics very briefly, basically we do three things. We're doing a lot of research, and I'll talk about some of it as and when relevant. But we also do a lot of, implementation. So, which means, for example, IIT Delhi, the campus is zero waste, which means that less than 10% of the waste goes to landfills today because we're composting. The compost goes back to IIT residents. They're absolutely thrilled. They can barely believe it's their kuda. We're segregating the waste. We're obviously reusing some of the waste. For example, the workers there, the whole thing is just 22 workers and 2 supervisors. I mean, it would be great to have 10, 12% more, but we're managing with these, and it's quite an efficient thing. So, for example, they'll throw out mattresses and pillows. And the usual question is, what do we do with them? But especially because there's polyfill in many of these, which, as you know, cannot be recycled. But very often the workers just want to take them home because it's a luxury. So there's a reuse element, and of course, there's the recycling element. And I'll move on. That was just one example. We have lots of these kinds of works. And if anyone's interested in seeing them, I'm more than happy to show you. But talking of plastics, it always, as somebody who engages with both the larger and the smaller questions, I like to ask, why are we seeing more plastic waste today and not less? And I also like to wonder, I like to ask, what's wrong with our data? So I thought I'd outline 3 or 4 reasons. I think, first of all, I think the Central Pollution Control Board says that there's 3.5 or 4 million metric tons per year, but the Swachh Bharat actually puts it at almost 2.5 times more than that, 9.5 now, 9.4 actually. And so my question is that we need to standardize what we consider plastic waste. We need to standardize how to calculate it. We can always change that standardization, but we really need numbers if we want to look at how effective a law is, how effective our work on the ground is, or a policy is. Maharashtra produces most of the plastic, 13%, which is the highest. And Tamil Nadu and Gujarat are at 12% each, and West Bengal and Karnataka at 9%, says the Pollution Control Board. Now, what's quite interesting, and we can talk about it later, is that Maharashtra and Tamil Nadu were actually the 2 states that created, in 2018, some of the most important bans on plastics. And consequently, in the beginning of 2019, early January, 3rd of January, when the Tamil Nadu ban came in, I think it was 3rd of January, you actually saw a lot of alternatives. And Maharashtra was already rolling out that ban in the previous time. So these are two people who tried experiments, and we'll talk of state experiments later. But we have a whole story in India about how we've been fighting plastic. And actually, it's a really interesting story. So let me just summarize it for you. In 1996, we had this first plastic committee. And I remember, because I was extremely, obviously I didn't work or anything, but there was no Chintan either. But I still went for it because, in one's youth, we're great activists. And I said, yeah, what is this? And, obviously they didn't really allow us in. So there was nothing to do but to sit outside. But the point was, at that point, there was a huge lack of understanding of how toxic and dangerous plastic was. Now, remember, 1996 is a particular era in time where that's the first time globally people are understanding, chemistry of small amounts of toxics. It's not the first time, but it's the first time it's popularly understood. At the same time, dioxins and furans are coming into Indian regulatory vocabulary. But most important, we're still not talking about the fact that we need to minimize plastics. And the plastic industry has a huge role to play, because it's actually saying, and the report says things like, the public is really ill-disciplined. It doesn't throw everything into bins. And so they provide these plastic bins, and they set up an organization supported by the Ministry of Environment, and they're throwing all these bins at Khan Market and other places, even in Mumbai, and saying if we collect all the waste and it doesn't litter, the problem is going to be ameliorated. And from that thinking, we go through multiple iterations. There's a Ranganath Mishra committee, 2002, then there's the MOEF laws, which get amended. They start in 1999, and we talk of them, the latest ones, which have just come out in this year, 2021. And what's quite amazing about the trends is that we've always talked about 2 things until this year. We talked about thickness of plastic bags at the national level, and we talked about extended producer responsibility for bags, as well as the multi-layered products, which are like Uncle Chips or whatever those kinds of packaging materials are. But now, and this is quite impressive, and much of it has to do with the push that the Prime Minister has been giving around banning plastics and banning single-use plastics. And by 2023, we've actually banned things like earbuds and with plastic sticks and plastic sticks for balloons, although we haven't banned balloons, and balloons are a non-recyclable, difficult to collect plastic. We've banned plastic flags, we've banned thermocol for decorations, plastic cups, cutlery, all of that. And there's a whole list, I'm sure you've read the laws, but that's quite an interesting change. And What I still want to point out is this is not valid for compostable plastics. Now, compostable plastics, in Chintan's experience, are very hard to compost. I'll tell you our experience, and then I'll tell you what we observed elsewhere. So we gathered a large number of compostable plastics. Some were compostable by simply composting. Some said keep us out in the photo biodegradable, and so on. And in every single case, they did not biodegrade. And we dug them out for 6 months. In fact, for a year, we kept the photodegradable plastics pinned on, facing direct sunlight. And they certainly deteriorated, but they did not cease to lose their form of a bag even. So when we look at the harm that plastics do, we often think of large pieces. I mean, we've been looking at photographs of elephants and camels with large pieces of plastics. But the science is telling us that long after plastics are broken down, they turn into microplastics, which are less than 5 millimeter. And that is the big global challenge today. Everyone's talking microplastics because those plastics are virtually threatening to overpower the fish in the ocean by 2050. Those plastics are going into creatures like molluscans, like smaller order animals in the marine ecosystem, and they're fundamentally disrupting their metabolic system. Many plastics also have additives, and Dr. Joshi will talk about them, but those additives are toxic, and they also create, therefore, chemical pollution, not only in the ecosystem, but everywhere. In fact, UNEP is doing a huge amount of work on this, and through its countermeasures projects. And so what we're looking at is the importance and the newly recognized importance of microplastics. There's not so much work done in India on the impact on biodiversity, but globally, like I explained, there's metabolic changes. For example, their livers have lesions. For example, these are not just questions of, choking an animal. These are questions of mimicking kind of cancerous growths, which are not cancerous, but they still disrupt metabolism. And that most studies have happened around molluscans and crustaceans, and not so many studies around higher order animals. So when we talk compostable, and why I told you about that is that even if you compost something, and it's going to take a long time and it's going to break down, our experience was that they didn't break down. But supposing we overlook Chintan's experience, and we go to California, and we go to San Jose, which is where Stanford is located, and it's one of those developed parts of the world. You have compostable plastic everywhere, and it says that this can only be composted in an industrial level facility. So I looked around. I went to Stanford in the fall of 2019, just briefly, just to do a course. And I found that I kept looking on how to dispose it, and there was no way. Everyone was just throwing it with regular waste, because there was no industrial facility that we could locate. And then I moved to my friend's house, and they said there was no industrial facility. So there are these huge pitfalls when you cannot currently make 100% of your population compost a banana peel. I'm not sure that we can make ourselves compost, drink sticks and so on. So even if you put them into the ground, the time they take to disintegrate, they will still be microplastics, and they will still have additives, and those are still hazards. So I want to point that out. I want to come back now to why is it that we don't reduce plastics? Because, I have a lot to say on health, but I don't want to go away to Dr. Joshi's space. And I'm aware that I have only 10 more minutes. Am I right, Balesh?
Yes, please go ahead, Bharti. No problem.
Okay. So first of all, I think, and I brought this in because I was trying to see what would be the most relevant to a group like yours. Particularly, I was being selfish and thinking these are the areas we can collaborate in the future. But one of the things is that our legislation, the Environmental Protection Act, from which all of these rules are derived, is really still dependent on state implementation, and within the state pollution control boards. Now, the state pollution control boards are extraordinarily weak, which means that our regulatory apparatus is extremely weak. For example, the positions are very unfilled. There's a whole trend across India that scientists who might actually be going out and doing field work are now pretty much inundated with replying to courts and legal cases in NGT, etc. And in fact, in one of the Central Pollution Control Board's annual reports, it takes its reports, it's an aggregator of the data from various state pollution control boards. They actually said 10 states made a claim that we have no violations at all of the pollution of the plastic waste rules, which obviously sounds either like paradise. Alternatively, nobody's recorded any violations, either because they don't have the time, which seems likely, and they haven't even been able to go out and understand, record, and act on these violations, which looks very likely from what I understand by talking to some of these scientists off the record, and they just don't have the time. And I'll talk to you about Delhi. Now, Delhi, we all agree, is relatively privileged, so I serve on that board as well. And we've had such a hard time because they created all these positions in 1998, but it took them 16 years to frame those recruitment rules. And everyone was fighting with them on the board. I came in much later, and there were massive, shouting, saying, recruit people. How do you expect to work? And why are we sitting here like your board? And we could have, for example, both the plastic and the air pollution problem, we could have nipped it in the 1990s, or at least the 2000s. Again, plastic waste in Delhi in 2013, Sheila Dikshit had banned plastic bags, but that ban got a stay. And there just wasn't enough capacity to get more data to overturn that ban in Delhi. It could never be done because there was no one available. The Pollution Control Board didn't have the capacity. So Delhi lost that opportunity to reduce its plastics. And even today, 48 junior environmental engineers are being recruited. It's just an ongoing process. So look at the lags, and this is not Delhi's story alone. So I think one challenge is that we don't use citizens groups enough. Now, we don't want vigilante groups, but I think there's a huge place for citizen science, groups like yourself, people who understand policy, people who understand how government works, groups like Chintan, certainly. I think there's a place to be able to at least be monitoring mechanisms. And I think that is the first thing I want to kind of note. I think the other thing that's quite disturbing is that there's just too much focus on plastic bags. Because, the fact is, plastic bags are not necessarily the most difficult things. Under the UNEP's Countermeasures 2 project in Agra, which got over in 2020 actually, the National Productivity Council found that there were huge numbers. They looked at what plastics were actually leaking into the Yamuna, and what they found was that there was a lot of Uncle Chips kinds of plastics. There were a lot of multi-layered packaging that was going there. So we really only looked at multi-layered packaging relatively recently in terms of extended producer responsibility. Now, this is also problematic because now what does Chintan do about EPR? A couple of things that we do. One of the things is that we work with a lot of waste pickers and make them pick up these kinds of waste so that they can earn additional incomes. Now, this is super exciting because any additional income for somebody poor actually means very specific things. It means, firstly, that their son might complete class 10. It means, secondly, that their daughters will not be married, before they're 18. Thirdly, it means daughters also could complete class 10. In fact, we run an education initiative with waste pickers, and we find that by and large, girls outperform boys. And in fact, girls always have more clarity on their careers and what they want to do. And boys often don't. And that's because they hold these opportunities very dear to themselves. And all the girls who've made it to, all the kids who've made it to college, we currently have someone who's going to perhaps graduate this year from Deshbandhu College, who's, they come from, this is their background. So it's very important to be able to use things like extended producer responsibility, because even if it is purchased and given to a recycler, it has to be purchased from somebody. And who is that somebody? These are our kabadi walas. And that is why the informal sector in the extended producer responsibility regime is the spine of it. But the extended producer the informal sector, and Santu will talk of it, is the spine of all plastics management, because it's not just for nothing that The Economist says India has the highest recycling rates in the world, because they pick up something like 52 types of plastics, and because they hyper segregate it, and that's why it can be recycled. But if you're not going to augment and look after these, we're talking about 15 lakh people at the very least in India, and India has about 10% of the world's waste pickers. If you're not going to be able to augment them, if we're not going to help them improve the quality of their work and offer them social security, we will not be able to efficiently handle plastic. And I think that much has been understood by most pollution control boards now. So I think that's a really important part when you talk of plastics and when you talk of extended producer responsibility. But one thing that we are doing is we're telling producers that you pick up your plastic waste. We're not saying reduce your plastic waste. And when we say pick it up and we give percentages, then it's possible for them to game the system, which they do. So they'll pick up everything from Mumbai and Bangalore and Delhi. But who's going to Dehradun? Who's going to Haldwani? Who's going to Shillong? Now, these are very fragile ecosystems. We'll all agree with that. And microplastics in these systems are extremely dangerous, because you have very fragile ecosystems. You have many of these are nesting sites, and they're getting contaminated. But there's no logic for the company, and I empathize with that view. Is you'll get something like 100 kilograms in the whole month, and that's not going to help you meet your quota. So we really need a system that incentivizes picking up less, but getting more weightage for that from fragile ecosystems. We also need a way to incentivize what informal sector is able to do. So I believe that this is pretty interesting. I also believe that the new laws are very good. The new laws of 2021 that have banned all those earbuds and all, because none of those items are things that waste pickers pick. Now, we've done a study called Plan the Ban in a number of cities. And what we found that was that waste pickers' incomes between 40 to 61% depended on plastics, whether it was Nainital or Pune or Indore or Delhi. But they all wanted only high value plastics. So what do you do about? So when you ban low value plastics, the number one thing you do is you do a very dramatic thing of removing the plastics that will not harm existing incomes. The second thing that we must do is to promote alternatives. There are alternatives, especially in India. You don't see these alternatives everywhere else, but there are alternatives, and there are not just alternatives, there are lifestyles. I mean, we all don't need straws necessarily to have a cold drink if you can trust the cleanliness of the glass. But these are ideas which are alive in India, and we should really use them to fight plastics. These are ideas which are absolutely alien in North America, for example, because they don't understand the idea of a dirty glass or a clean glass. It's just as logical as using chopsticks. That's what you do. That's what developed countries have come to. So that's one more reason, I think, because we focus so much on plastic bags, we've forgotten the other important elements in reducing plastics. We've forgotten reducing MLPs. We've not augmented informal sector hard enough. And I think those are also challenges. Now, I also feel that India, if all our plastic reduction has to succeed, somebody has to make money. I mean, these things don't happen from the goodness of our collective hearts, because firstly, we're a minority here. And secondly, people have other things to do. And the only way this can happen is two ways. There's a huge opportunity here to look at green jobs in plastic alternatives. But there's an equally huge opportunity, and I want to emphasize that even more, about augmenting informal plastic recycling. There's a huge amount of plastic informal recycling. According to the CPCB, in 9 states alone, there are 823 unregistered units. Now, these guys are clearly recycling because there's a demand. I mean, I was in parts of UP less than a month ago, and I was walking around in these little gullies. I was there, and, I was, much to my surprise, I was finding plastic recycling, within walking distance of several well-known places. And they were doing a perfectly viable job, except that they were not formal. And I think it's a very important thing to upgrade them if needed, formalize them, because then A, we create jobs, and B, we decentralize recycling. And when you have smaller units, you don't have to, emit all those greenhouse gas emissions by transferring plastics all the way from Kanpur to Delhi and from Banaras to Delhi, and which is what's happening. And, all that distance, you can decentralize it, you can create local jobs, and above all, you can control it. And when you've decentralized it, then community controls also kick in, which is why community composting is always more successful than all the, decentralized composting. In fact, India has a story of utterly failed decentralized composting, but not too bad. Utterly failed centralized composting, but not too bad decentralized composting, because communities make sure that it doesn't smell. They're part of it, they contribute to it. And similarly, I believe for recycling, it's important. Now, I know my time's kind of up, but I wanted to kind of just close this with a few ideas. I think going forward, we really have to look at plastic reduction. And I look at the example of the straw. Too often, and I say straw because it's just easy for everybody, but too often we say replace it. And when you replace it, I think organizations like ours should really move at what can be a no materials design. So do you really need a straw, to kind of drink that glass of whatever it is? And I was at this Swish bar that I go to very often in my neighborhood in Delhi, and the owner, he knows me quite often, and sometimes I just go there for breakfast. And he said, I said, why do you keep giving these expensive, steel kind of reusable straws? And he said, because, otherwise all the women's lipstick will come off. And I thought, we've really got our priorities misplaced. We're killing turtles and we've got this terrible disaster, but we're thinking of our lipstick. So I obviously didn't agree with him, but that was okay. But what I'm trying to tell you is, how about campaigning not for alternatives, but for nothings in some cases, and for reusables for other cases. And I think I want to really leave the thought here that there are just 3 big things I believe that we should focus on in the next coming year. One of them is, even alternatives, do we really need them? Because finally, steel is mined, and mining has its own footprint. Even bamboo has its own footprint. So do we really need alternatives for many things? And can we use reusable things? The second one is, we really have to augment our informal sector, because if your kabadi wala is going to work in terrible conditions, if your waste picker is going to get your unsegregated waste, and if they're going to live in a terrible place and burn all the waste because it's so cold in the night, then what are we doing? What is the purpose? We're not really clearing the pollution. And finally, I think it's very important, and maybe perhaps in government you already know this, but at the cost of being repetitive, I think it's very, very important to constantly repeat messages in the public domain, because it does have an influence as long as you can do data-based messages. And I really invite all of you and your organization to kind of come and work with us to create a kind of wider consortium around plastics in the country, so that we can actually get some of these things done. Thank you.
Thank you, Bharti. And that was a very comprehensive talk, leaving us with thoughts like going beyond recyclable or reusable, looking at an alternative of having nothing relating to plastics, especially the pollutant plastics, also strengthening the informal sector, and joining hands of all these small groups, so that the civil society's presence can also be felt into this noble cause of reducing the plastic pollutants. Now we'll come back to you, Bharti. I may mention that a large number of audience, and we have today quite a large number, making some wonderful remarks and observations on your talk. And we will be, after we finish with the other two speakers talking, we will come to the Q&A session, when such questions will be posed, and probably there can be more of discussion on some of the points which you have made today in your talk. Now, we come to Dr. Tushar Kant Joshi, an occupational and environmental expert, medicine expert, as well as an expert on chemical safety. Dr. Joshi is an MBBS, MS Surgery, MSc Occupational Medicine, DLS HTM Occupational Health, Certified Occupational Medicine from California as well as London University. He has the fellowship of Collegium Ramazani, and he is presently member or special nominee of Director General of Factory Advice Service and Labor Institutes on Academic Council for Education and Training of Industrial Physicians, lead expert on technological evaluation of FSSI and the Ministry of Health and Family Welfare. He is also part of Central Council of Health, member of the Central Pollution Control Board, National Institute of Occupational Health, and he is visiting professor in occupational health in Philadelphia, Domsef School of Public Health. He has been also a member of the Strategic Research Advisory Group, which is part of National Institute of Research Environmental Health, Bhopal, ICMR, member of the Task Force for Air Pollution, is part of the directions of Honorable Supreme Court, has been an expert member of the EAC committee. Dr. Joshi has had many achievements. He has set up the first Center of Occupational and Environmental Health at the Maulana Azad Medical College, New Delhi. He has also been invited by ILO to finalize global list of occupational diseases. He has been chairman of National Biomedical Waste Committee of CPCB, and he has been chairman of UNIDO and MOEFCC project on the biomedical waste management. He has been awarded Research Integrity Award of the International Society of Environmental Epidemiology, received in Perth, Australia, and has also been awarded Irving Selikoff Award for the exemplary contribution to OHS in India. He has been associated with the research relating to the first study on firefighters' occupational hazards, first study of mercury exposure for dental physicians, and he advises some of the well-known organizations and bodies like Tata Steel, Central Electronics Limited, TERI, and his made one of the most important contribution has been to make uh, Delhi mercury free, which is a very significant contribution. Now I request Dr. Joshi to please talk on the topic today, creating awareness against plastic pollution. Dr. Joshi, please.
Thank you, sir, for those very generous words. And I'm really delighted to be in the company of very enlightened people. And Bharti asked me to share my thoughts. Uh, so I would just start off by saying first that a discipline of environmental health and this environment, they are two different. They are two different things altogether. And environmental health is a discipline which does not exist in any academic institution in India, which is a very. I think there's some background noise I hear.
I'll request all the participants to switch off their microphones, please, so that we can avoid this kind of a noise, please. Yes, Dr. Joshi, I think it's better. You may continue.
Okay, thank you, sir. So, what happened that my experience, Bharti has a very wide experience in the field of plastics and the disposal. But my experience has been on two accounts. First, the plastic which are used in electronic equipment making, and secondly, the biomedical waste management. And I think I would start off with the biomedical waste management because when this COVID erupted on the scene, one of our immediate concern was the amount of plastics that we were used by the hospitals. Uh, it went up by almost tenfold because every physician who was there in the COVID healthcare, they were supposed to don all kinds of plastic made PPEs, respirators, overalls. And so all of a sudden, we had just two facilities in Delhi to treat this waste, and they ran out of the capacity. And as one can imagine, it's not possible to create such a facility overnight. And our real concern was that this plastics that would not be treated and disposed of by these centralized facilities will be thrown around, and it might create a big public health hazard because this virus is there. It is to be surviving on some surfaces for as long as 72 hours. So thankfully, the research later on, we collected data, we looked at the global data, and we found surprisingly that despite the voluminous increase in the amount of personal protective equipment and other things made of plastic by during COVID care, there was no case of COVID transmission caused by such things. So that was a great solace to all of us. One of the perils of the modern society is that what becomes a solution today becomes a nightmare tomorrow. And I'll just give a few examples that in 50s, the West Bengal, some areas of West Bengal were experiencing a very high rate of gastrointestinal diseases, typhoid, dysentery, cholera. So the World Bank team was invited, and they said that this can be, these are all waterborne diseases. So because people were fetching the drinking water from the ponds and pukhors and the rivers down the stream, which was highly polluted and big, a great E. coli and pathogen content. So we should give them hand pumps. So the World Bank assisted, and the hand pumps were put there in many villages. And so today West Bengal has one of the highest, I mean, cases of arsenic related poisoning, and it's a nightmare. And so much so that in Bangladesh they are saying it is going to be the biggest cause of cancer. I remember my own medical training because half of my life I was a surgeon. Uh, in those days, we were using glass syringes and rubber tubings, and the result was that many people, because boiling and sterilizing these glass syringes were left to the lowest order of the in the healthcare, the class 4 employees, and we know that there were several cases of this transmission of very serious diseases like hepatitis B and hepatitis C. And of course, hepatitis B we can now prevent by immunization, but there's no immunization for hepatitis C. And I know a close relative of mine who had tuberculosis, and in those days streptomycin was to be given by injectable syringes. He developed hepatitis B and he died of hepatic cancer because that is what is ultimate fate. So when this plastic syringes and the plastic bottles they arrived in the scene, we sorted out that problem. But the problem with the plastic material that we use in the healthcare soon was realized. And one of the biggest problem that we still face today is the transfusion bags that we use for transfusing blood and IV solutions. There's a good deal of, and this so happened there was a case who had a very serious trauma and had to be administered 30 pints of blood. The person recovered and then suddenly started going down the hill. So it was very curious, and it was very puzzling for the physician that everything was on track, the recovery was on track, but suddenly how the patient got so sick. And then they found that from that plastic bag which we use for blood transfusion, there were these phthalate esters leaching into the blood. And because he got so many pints of blood and he was on this transfusion for such a long time, there was such a high buildup of this phthalate concentration in his blood. And so it was the first documented case where the plastics, instead of getting the healing, resulted in a serious illness. And today we are having a serious situation. I remember the director of the GB Pant Hospital. She phoned me one day. She said, Dr. Joshi, it's a big problem. Can we find a solution for this plastic bag? They are used billions all over the world. The Baxter International I was in the Ministry of Health in a meeting. The Baxter International was contacted. They said, we are not still in sight of a material that can replace this. So we have many advantages of using these transfusion bags instead of the old time bottles and rubbers. We never knew whether they were properly sterilized or not. So we have been able to sort out the issue of infection, but now we ended up with this plasticizers and the other chemicals leaching out from these plastic bags. And the problem has become so, there are so many dimensions of this biomedical waste that a common man doesn't realize. Once we were invited by Mrs. Menka Gandhi when she was the minister, and she said that it was a personal experience and she had some very robust data with her. She said that the hospitals all over India, especially in large metropolitan cities, they are probably able to do the collection and disposal of their biomedical waste, especially the plastic waste, properly. But as far as the rural India is concerned, they are not able to do it. And so what happens, there are millions, maybe probably billion crore syringes, which end up in the gray market. They are recycled, they are just washed. And after washing these balas, they use them and they inject the cow and buffaloes with the oxytocin injection, and that's a big issue. And so her point was really, I mean, something, a big challenge that in a country of this size, how can you monitor this? That the syringes which are used, they are all actually single-use syringes, disposable, and they are being used multiple times by these unscrupulous physicians. I hope some people would remember a case of a quack in, I think, Ottawa somewhere, who created 50 or 60 cases of AIDS by simply using this plastic syringe and again and again and again, not properly actually sterilizing it. And I remember one second moment phoned me and she said that, look here, you just talked with the DCP West. There's seems to be some kind of an emergency. So I phoned the DCP office, and I think Mr. Pathak was then the DCP, Dipin Pathak. So he said, Doctor, you have to come to my office. I went there, and then I said, what is the issue? He said, well, we have got a feedback from our sources that there is a big consignment of biomedical waste. It's all plastic waste, actually, in a place which is being actually just washed and being reused. But our police officers, they don't know whether it is coming from the hospital or it is a hospital waste. So we just want you to just confirm. So it was winter time, night time. We went to a place in Mundaka, and there were the premises which were locked. The lock, people were called, lock was open. There were tons and tons of this plastic waste lying there. And obviously, it was probably for illegal use. So this has become our big nightmare that on the one hand, we have sorted out this problem of many transmission of diseases which occurred in the previous era when we didn't have the plastic bottles and plastic bags and the syringes. But now we end up with this big issue of how to dispose it properly. The most notorious and the most extensively used plastic in the healthcare is PVC. I remember visiting a factory of PVC when I was under training in UK. And the first time I realized that this PVC contains a good deal of lead and cadmium, and both are extremely nasty material. According to WHO, the 1% of global burden of disease is still attributable to the lead use. And we had a survey. The survey is already completed by the FSSI. They picked up 82,000 samples of vegetables from 6 states in India. And many of the samples, I wouldn't say most, but many of the samples, and from one particular state, they were very heavily contaminated with lead. And we know that if the plastics are disposed of indiscriminately, the lead and other metals will leach out. So we are yet to ascertain the source of this lead contamination, the vegetables we all eat. And lead is a very, still one of the most toxic elements. So that is the biomedical waste issue that we have. And then maybe actually Terry, they did a study on the e-waste workers. And in fact, because they don't have a health expert, so they called our center at Maulana Azad if we can assist them. So we studied this the dismantling and the recycling of this e-waste, and the volume of e-waste that is arriving in India from overseas is exponentially growing. And I think less than probably 10%, probably Bharti may have that figure, less than 10% is being treated and recycled by the big players, but all otherwise it is being handled in the informal or the unorganized sector. And there are two major parts. First activity is the dismantling, and the second activity is the recycling. And we looked at the dismantling. It's your TV or computer is made of PVC. And when the workers, they break it, there is a good deal of dust generated. And it's only after this electronic equipment uh, was made of the plastic that we realized that there is a new health disorder that has arrived on the scene. We call it the PVC pneumoconiosis. I mean, the dust from these broken components, they end up in the workers' lungs and causes disease, which is a fatal disease. When we looked at the recyclers, we we were surprised, first of all, to find that the periodic table has about 80 elements which are classified as elements. Practically every element is used in making of the this electronic equipment. And in the earlier times, your picture tube, the TV tube, has to have almost a 1 kilogram of lead. 1 kilogram is lead enough to poison the entire Delhi. So we actually measured the blood in the those who were working there in their blood, in the urine, if it is ending up in their body, and we were surprised and shocked to find that there were very high levels of lead in the human blood. The workers who were working there, and there were also a good amount of chromium. Chromium is a cancer-causing element. So that raised the, alarm, and but unfortunately there is no solution. These, to carry out this study, our team was sometimes attacked because most of these activities are illegal activities. They are not permitted, and they are done under the most horrendous condition, where the workers and even the surrounding areas, the soil, the water, they get contaminated. So coming to my the final point, that it's a very good effort on the part of your organization to create awareness. But unfortunately, there are two dimensions: the environmental part and the environmental health part. Uh, we have, I think, created a good deal of awareness about the plastics, the disposal part, and how they are biopersistence, and so we have to look for the alternative. But the environmental health part from Indian perspective is still very scanty, and we don't have many studies to show how much of harm to the health has been done by this indiscriminate disposal of plastic or the use of plastic. We know there is a lot of, it's not a food grade plastic which is used for wrapping. Most of the plastic is used for wrapping and packaging. This is the biggest use. And we know that in the first decade of this century, we have produced so much of plastic that the volume exceeds the entire volume produced in the last century. And that's why we are having this issue. So there are elements like bisphenol and especially phthalate esters, which are the main notorious causes. And I am sure that many of you have read that study, the Rachel Carson's book, The Silent Spring. Rachel Carson is known as the mother of all environmental movement, and she hit upon that that was the DDT story, because when she looked at why the birds had stopped laying eggs and why the spring became silent, it was because of the massive use of DDT. And so when they looked at DDT closely, they found that this causes endocrine disruption. And this endocrine disruption is responsible for excessive cases of cancer, immune suppression, and many genetic disorders, and especially its reproductive toxicity is very high. And so these plastic, the plasticizers, and the bisphenol A and the phthalate esters, they have the same physiological and biochemical, uh, harm to the human body, that they act as endocrine disruptors. And testing is so difficult. I remember that some years back, if you want to test a person's blood, whether these dioxins are there, there were only three labs in the world. One was in Sweden, one was, another in Japan, and the third in US. And what blood sample testing cost $14,000, because they are very very sophisticated system. We don't have those systems here still. So this is the reason why the data on environmental health aspects are very scanty. And this is where I think there is a need to create awareness not only about the plastic from the environmental perspective, but also from the health perspective, because this long-term harm is phenomenal. We recently concluded our global conference at the Collegium Ramazzini last in October, and in those there were a couple of papers, and this is a new research, actually a new development. They are saying that these endocrine disruptors and these chemicals which are present in the plastics, when the mother during her pregnancy and has exposure to these, whether through food, through other usage, they are transferred to the baby. And then the damaging effect is transgenerational. That means not only that child born would have the harm from this, but his children and their grandchildren and their great grandchildren, they were all going to keep that genetic changes that have occurred because of the use of these chemicals. This is the most frightening thought, and this is a new area of research which has caught the people's attention. And that's also true of the air pollution. That's why we are more concerned about air pollution. So I think that probably we have to, I mean, tell about physicians, because environmental health is a subject which is very much alien to the physician. This is a subject which is not taught during their medical education. Even very senior physicians, they have very little inkling of what the environmental health is all about. And the environmental health is more is a different ballgame altogether. Uh, for example, and it's not very well understood also. For example, when you hear environmentalists, for them air pollution is the biggest concern. But unfortunately, it is not the air pollution; it is the water pollution from environmental health perspective, which is the biggest concern. Because this was WHO data, and the government of India has never denied it. 9 out of 10 infants in India, they die of having not having access to clean drinking water and due to insanitation. And this figure is comparable to the poorest of the poor country of the world, the Chad, Mali, and Niger. So that is where the environmental health issue is more focused on the water pollution. Now, air pollution for most people, they think that outdoor air pollution probably is the biggest environmental concern. But if you, I mean, tease it out and see what is the environmental health perspective, then the single most important damaging aspect of the air pollution is not ambient air pollution or outdoor air pollution. It is the household air pollution. And that is where the Prime Minister has launched this Ujjwala Yojana, because there are millions and millions of rural women who are using this cow dung cake, and this household air pollution is the single biggest cause of the mortality under 5 in India. So this is how environmental health differs from environment. We need to create awareness as is being touted, and as is the function of this organization to talk about the environmental issue. But I think the environmental health part is the ultimate, because ultimately it is if the environment hasn't affected the human health, who would bother for the environment? So environmental health research need to be integrated into the medical schools. There has to be some push given to the subject. We need to create more environmental health. Environmental health is after all public health. And during this COVID, it was first time in the great country America realized that even their public health is in shambles. And imagine that every big city in the US has a school of public health. And the Boston has two, the Harvard and the Boston. And when I completed my education in US, I came back to India and found out that there was only one public health school, and that was in Calcutta, and that was also almost dying. So all through this environmental health is a sub-discipline of public health, and so is occupational health. And unless we start giving more focus on public health and promoting it, putting the measures together, we are not going to have solution to the whether plastic waste disposal or with biomedical waste or any kind of waste disposal. So with those, I will just end my talk. Thank you very much for giving me this opportunity and to be on this forum. Thanks a lot.
Thank you, Dr. Joshi, for that very informative talk on that part of the harm which is caused to the human beings into the society, where probably, as you rightly said, there are very limited studies. The studies also need to be conducted through experimentation, for which probably we do not have those expensive machinery available with us. And what I found most remarkable in your talk is that even what is being taught in the medical schools and colleges, it does not, the syllabi do not cover this aspect of the health impact which arises of the due to the plastic pollution.
Absolutely, sir.
Now let me come to the third speaker. I may just mention that we have got a very live audience, and I'm seeing that large number of very useful remarks are being made by the participants on the chat. Thank you for your interest. We will be now hearing the third speaker, and thereafter we move to Q&A session. The third speaker is a waste picker, has been associated with Chintan for quite some time. His name is Santu. In fact, his name is Shri Jayaprakash Chaudhary, and he is popularly or also often called as Santu. Santu ji, namaskar. और आपका ये जो वेबिनार है इस पर स्वागत है। संतु जी सफाई सेना के महासचिव भी हैं और एक कई वर्षों से वो कबाड़ी का काम और जो कबाड़ होता है उसको उठाते हैं, और उन्होंने साथ साथ एक छोटी सी ऑर्गेनाइजेशन स्मॉल वेस्ट ट्रेडर्स की चला रखी है। इस काम में संतु जी पिछले जब से वो टीन में 18-19 साल की उम्र से वो जुड़े हुए हैं और लगातार इस कार्य को वो करते रहे हैं। पहले उन्होंने एक सॉर्टर के रूप में ये कार्य करा, और अब जैसे मैंने बताया एक स्मॉल ट्रेडिंग एंटरप्राइज वो रन करते हैं। वो इस कार्य में युद्ध की तरह जुड़े हुए हैं, और उन्होंने वो ये मानते हैं कि जो आज वायु का प्रदूषण हो रहा है वो मात्र मास्क पहनने से समाप्त नहीं होगा, और ये उसका सही इलाज नहीं है, बल्कि हमें जड़ तक जाना होगा और ये वायु प्रदूषण हर किस्म से हर तरीके से रोकना होगा। संतु जी बहुत अच्छे से जुड़े हुए हैं कि हमें इस तरीके की जो कठिनाइयां प्रदूषण के कारण प्लास्टिक पोल्यूशन के कारण आ रही हैं, उनका सॉल्यूशन भी क्या है, उनके कई सुझाव हैं इस मामले में। उन्होंने भारत का प्रतिनिधित्व करा है COP15 कोपेनहेगन में, और इस तरीके के कई अंतर्राष्ट्रीय प्लेटफॉर्म से में भी उन्होंने भारत के बारे में और भारत की प्रदूषण की समस्या के बारे में चर्चा और विचार विमर्श किया है। संतु जी, अब मैं आपसे निवेदन करता हूं कि आप बोलें और यहाँ हमारे जो पार्टिसिपेंट्स हैं उनको अपना व्यू बताएं। नमस्कार संतु जी, आए, स्वागत है।
जी नमस्ते, मेरा नाम संतु है। मैं सबका हाथ जोड़ के प्रणाम करता हूं और आप सबका धन्यवाद करना चाहता हूं कि इस प्लेटफॉर्म पे हमें बोलने का मौका मिला। जब प्लास्टिक की बात आती है सर, मैं तो पूरा वेस्ट की बात करता हूं, लेकिन मैं प्लास्टिक की बात करता हूं तो जब प्लास्टिक की बात होती है लोग प्लास्टिक 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 करते रहते हैं, लेकिन आज 2000 से 2021 चल रहा है, आगे इस महीने के बाद 2022 आने वाला है। 2005 से लेके हम लोग इतना प्लास्टिक को अपने पास बुलाने लग गए, अपने आप में सम्मिलित करने लग गए, जिसके कारण कि प्लास्टिक बढ़ना शुरू हो गया। और 2020 तक ये हो गया कि अब हम ये सोच रहे हैं कि प्लास्टिक मेरा पीछा कैसे छोड़ दे। तो जब हम किसी चीज को अपने पास बुलाते हैं तो इतना जल्दी आसानी से वो हमारा पीछा छोड़ के नहीं जाता है, लेकिन हाँ, अगर उस पर विचार किया जाए, उस पर काम किया जाए, उस पर सबका सहयोग हो, तो उस चीज को कम कर सकते हैं, उस चीज को बाइकआउट कर सकते हैं। अब सर हम प्लास्टिक की बात करेंगे। प्लास्टिक कई तरीके का होता है, जैसे आप जानते हैं घर से निकलने वाली प्लास्टिक, फैक्ट्री से निकलने वाली प्लास्टिक, हॉस्पिटल से निकलने वाली प्लास्टिक। प्लास्टिक का क्या होता है सर कि हम सब लोग जानते हैं कि सिर्फ प्लास्टिक, लेकिन प्लास्टिक में क्या क्या होता है ये किसी को नहीं पता है। अगर आप रिसाइकलर को डायरेक्ट खाली प्लास्टिक दे देंगे जाके उसमें पता लगा कि सारा मिक्स प्लास्टिक है, तो वो रिसाइकलिंग नहीं हो सकता है। सबसे पहली चीज वेस्ट पिकर का काम होता है। मैं घर से ही शुरू करता हूँ सर कि घर से जो कूड़ा लाया जाता है उस कूड़े से पहले कागज, पन्नी, प्लास्टिक अलग किया जाता है और सेग्रीगेट करके फिर उसको छोटे गोदाम वाले को दिया जाता है, ताकि वो प्लास्टिक को सेग्रीगेट करे, पन्नी को सेग्रीगेट करे। अगर हम पन्नी की बात करते हैं, प्लास्टिक की बात करते हैं, पन्नी में ही 10-12 आइटम हो जाता है, LD, PP, HM, ये सब करके तब जाकर रिसाइकलर के पास LD वाले के HM वाले के पास जाएगा, तब जाके सेग्रीगेट होने के बाद रिसाइकलिंग होगा। नहीं सेग्रीगेट हुआ, रिसाइकलिंग का कोई महत्व ही नहीं है कि कोई रिसाइकलिंग कर सकता है। तो सबसे पहली चीज हमको सेग्रीगेशन पे ध्यान देना है कि हमको छटाई करना प्लास्टिक की जरूरी है। दूसरी चीज, जो फैक्ट्री से प्लास्टिक निकलता है सर, उसमें कुछ प्लास्टिक ऐसा होता है जो आप डायरेक्ट मोल्डिंग कर सकते हैं, उससे कुछ बना सकते हैं, क्योंकि वो साफ सुथरा प्लास्टिक होता है। कटने के बाद वो फैक्ट्री से निकलता है। जिस तरीके से आप मोबाइल बना रहे हैं, आप कूलर का फ्रेम बना रहे हैं, इस तरीके का जो प्लास्टिक है, कुछ कुछ प्लास्टिक है जो आप डायरेक्ट रिसाइकलिंग कर सकते हैं। लेकिन बहुत सारा प्लास्टिक है, जैसे अब फैक्ट्री से निकलने वाला ही कुछ ऐसा प्लास्टिक है, ड्रम है, कि बगैर वो सेग्रीगेट किए हुए, बगैर कटिंग किए हुए, बगैर धुले हुए उसका रिसाइकलिंग नहीं हो सकता है। तो सबसे महत्वपूर्ण काम वेस्ट पिकर का है कि घर से लाना, उसे सेग्रीगेट करना, फिर एक छोटे गोदाम वाले के पास वो मटेरियल जाएगा, फिर वो सेग्रीगेशन अलग अलग करेगा, फिर बड़े गोदाम वाले के पास जाएगा, फिर वो सेग्रीगेशन करके तब जाके रिसाइकलर के पास जाएगा, जब जाके कटेगा, धुलेगा, दाना तैयार होगा, और तब जाके सर वो प्रोडक्ट तैयार होके निकलेगा। तो महत्वपूर्ण चीज है कि जो सेग्रीगेशन है ये सबसे ज्यादा जरूरी है किसी भी वेस्ट में। अब हम जो प्लास्टिक अभी मार्केट में आ रहा है, कुछ कुछ प्लास्टिक पन्नी जैसे है, 300 पन्नी उठाने के बाद सर 1 किलो वजन होता है, जिसका कीमत आज के डेट में मार्केट में 4 से 5 रुपए किलो है। कोई भी आदमी 300 बार नीचे झुक के उस प्लास्टिक को 1 किलो को नहीं उठाता है जो कि उसे 5 रुपए का प्लास्टिक मिले। प्लास्टिक लो क्वालिटी का है और हाई क्वालिटी का। हाई क्वालिटी में जैसे HD, PP, LD, इस तरीके का जो मटेरियल आता है प्लास्टिक, वो हाई क्वालिटी में होता है, उससे लोग ज्यादा उठाते हैं। अब जैसे हम इधर गुटखे की पन्नी आप ले लीजिए, सब्जी की पन्नी ले लीजिए, कुरकुरे की पन्नी ले लीजिए, ये लो क्वालिटी की प्लास्टिक है। पहली चीज तो हमको उसका ध्यान रखना चाहिए, पर्यावरण को ध्यान रखना चाहिए, समाज को ध्यान रखते हुए वो चीज हम बनाएं जिससे नुकसान न हो। बहुत सारा प्लास्टिक है जो नुकसान कर रहा है, फिर भी हमारे हिंदुस्तान में आ रहा है। अभी भी देखिए चिप्स पैकिंग आ ही रहा है, पन्नी आ ही रहा है, कई इस तरीके का पन्नी बनाया गया है जो आ रहा है। अब इसे हमें कम करना है, तो हम कम किस तरीके से करेंगे? या तो खुद को बदलना होगा। अगर हम अपने आप में, अगर मान लीजिए हम 4 पानी का बोतल यूज कर रहे हैं, तो आज अगर हम शपथ ले लेते हैं कि हम 4 पानी का बोतल नहीं यूज करेंगे, पर्यावरण को सुरक्षित बनाना है, अपने आप को, अपने बच्चों के भविष्य को संवारना है, तो हम 1 बोतल यूज करेंगे। एकाएक नहीं लोग छोड़ सकता है, 4 तो 1 बोतल से फिर धीरे-धीरे वो प्लास्टिक कम होना शुरू होगा, जिससे कि नुकसान होना पर्यावरण को कम हो जाएगा। और सेग्रीगेशन में जो है कि जैसे आप देखते होंगे कभी-कभी घर में भी ऐसा होता है कि अच्छा प्लास्टिक में भी आप सब्जी गिरा देते हैं। तो जब सब्जी गिरा देता है, गंदा हो जाने के बाद सर उनकी सफाई करना पड़ता है, छटाई के बाद सफाई होता है, कटाई होता है, धुलाई होता है, उसके बाद जाके दाना तैयार होता है, उसके बाद आप कोई प्रोडक्ट बनाते हैं। यहाँ सिर्फ हम रिसाइकलर की बात करते हैं, जो लोग फैक्ट्री से बना रहे हैं, मार्केट में ला रहे हैं, उनकी बात करते हैं। लेकिन हकीकत ये है सर, आप छत जब ही बना सकते हैं जब आपका पिलर मजबूत हो, और पिलर आपका बेस्ट स्पीकर है। बगैर सेग्रीगेशन का आप रिसाइकलिंग नहीं कर सकते हैं, और आज के डेट में बेस्ट स्पीकर को कोई महत्व नहीं दिया जाता है। मैं बात करूंगा कि चिंतन अगर नहीं होता तो आज जो है, दिल्ली शहर की बात कर रहे हैं, हम दिल्ली में रहते हैं, तो आज जो बेस्ट स्पीकर है ना, बेस्ट स्पीकर को आज दिल्ली में रहने नहीं देता। आज भी सर हम चैलेंज करना चाहते हैं कि अगर बेस्ट स्पीकर के साथ हाथ मिला के समाज को उतरना पड़ेगा, सरकार को उतरना पड़ेगा, और हमारे चिंतन जैसे संस्था को उतरना पड़ेगा, और सब एक मत से अगर हम कार्य करेंगे तो इससे निषाद पाएंगे। नहीं तो मास्क लगाने से अगर आप सोचेंगे कि पॉल्यूशन का प्रॉब्लम हल हो जाए, तो ये मुश्किल है। जहां हमें काम करना है हम वहां काम नहीं करते हैं। बाद में क्या होता है सर, वही बेस्ट स्पीकर जो आपके घर से 5 किलोमीटर कूड़ा उठा के ला रहा है, उस लायक बना रहा है जिससे कि पॉल्यूशन, पर्यावरण को बचाया जा सके, रिसाइकलिंग किया जा सके। लेकिन बाद में उसी बेस्ट स्पीकर के साथ क्या होता है, ना तो उनके पास जगह होता है, ना पीने को पानी होता है, ना उनके पास ऐसा कोई कार्ड होता है जिससे कि कभी वो अपने आप को बता सके कि मैं भी इस शहर में रह के और इतना योगदान दे रहा हूँ। जबकि वो फ्री ऑफ कॉस्ट में बेस्ट स्पीकर काम कर रहा है, लाखों रुपए बचा रहा है और सेग्रीगेट कर रहा है। तो सर मैं यही कहना चाहूंगा कि जैसे आप कॉर्पोरेट घराने में आप बनाने वाले को देख रहे हैं, आप रिसाइकलर को देख रहे हैं, लेकिन अगर आप दोनों के बीच में रखते हुए बेस्ट स्पीकर और छोटे गोदाम वाले को देखेंगे, तो हकीकत आपको यही लगेगा कि सच्ची हकीकत यही है कि जब तक वेस्ट सेग्रीगेट नहीं होगा, जब तक रिसाइकलिंग नहीं हो सकता है। तो वेस्ट को रिसाइकलिंग करने के लिए, और हमको जैसे आप देखते हैं कि घर से कुछ खिलौना निकल जाता है, कबाड़ी लोग क्या करता है सर, 2-3 तरीके से काम करता है। एक तो रीयूज करने लायक जो होता है वो उठाता है, ठीक करता है, मार्केट में ले जाता है, बेचता है, ताकि रिसाइकलिंग होने से बचे और जिसको जरूरत है उस चीज का उसको मिल सके और वो अपने काम को कर सके। दूसरा जो सेग्रीगेट होता है वो रिसाइकलिंग के लिए होता है सर, जो रिसाइकलिंग के लिए जाता है। तीसरा जो है, जो नॉन रिसाइकलेबल मटेरियल है, वो कम सीधे लैंडफिल में जाता है। तो इस तरीके का बेस्ट स्पीकर का योगदान है, और हमारा मानना है कि अगर हम इस तरीके से काम करेंगे और अपने आप में एक शपथ लेंगे कि हाँ, हम आज से प्लास्टिक को कम करना शुरू करेंगे, क्योंकि प्लास्टिक हमें चारों तरफ से घेर लिया है, गले तक प्लास्टिक पहुंच गया है। पहले अगर हम 2000 में देखें सर, तो पहले स्टील, मेटल इस तरीके का चीज यूज होता था। पहले लोग प्लास्टिक से दूर भागते थे। आज लोग प्लास्टिक को गले लगा रहे हैं और मेटल को दूर कर रहे हैं, जिसके कारण कि पर्यावरण को और लोगों को तो सर चलिए हमारा तो जबान है, हम आपके सामने बोल रहे हैं, लेकिन उन जानवर से पूछिए, कुत्ता है, बिल्ली है, गाय है, भैंस है, पंछी है, चिड़िया है, आप उनसे पूछिए कि वो किसको बताएंगे। तो प्लास्टिक के ऊपर सिर्फ बात करने से नहीं होगा, उसका सॉल्यूशन ढूंढना पड़ेगा, और सॉल्यूशन सर यही है कि छोटे-छोटे लोगों को जगह पे सेग्रीगेट के लिए जगह मिलना चाहिए, ताकि वो अच्छे से सेग्रीगेट कर सके, उनको काम करने की सुविधा मिल सके, उन्हें मान्यता मिल सके, ताकि वो सेग्रीगेट करें और उस चीज को अच्छे तरीके से पहुंचाएं, और उनका भी कोई मान सम्मान हो, जिस तरीके से वो काम कर सके। तो इस तरीके से प्लास्टिक को सेग्रीगेट करना बहुत जरूरी है। अब हॉस्पिटल का जो प्लास्टिक है सर, आप देखते होंगे कि हॉस्पिटल की जो प्लास्टिक निकलता है, उसको भी बगैर सेग्रीगेट किए हुए रिसाइकलिंग नहीं कर सकते हैं। उसके ऊपर भी ध्यान देना होगा, उसके ऊपर भी ट्रेनिंग की जरूरत है। अब जैसे ट्रेनिंग अगर आप लोग दे रहे हैं कि मेडिकल वेस्ट को किस तरीके से हैंडल करना चाहिए, जैसे जनरल वेस्ट के बारे में हम लोग को मालूम है, मेडिकल वेस्ट के बारे में मालूम है, तो इस तरीके से हम प्लास्टिक को कम करने के लिए हर एक चीज में प्लास्टिक का जो योगदान है उसको कम करें, और अपने आप को सुरक्षित रखने के लिए, पर्यावरण को सुरक्षित रखने के लिए हमको ये कदम उठाना चाहिए, और बेस्ट स्पीकर का मदद करना चाहिए जो आपके समाज में एक बहुत बड़ा योगदान दे रहा है। धन्यवाद सर।
संतु जी, बहुत बहुत धन्यवाद, और आपने बहुत महत्वपूर्ण बातें हमें बताई। मैं तो इसमें से 3 बातें मुझे बहुत अच्छी लगी, अपील करती हैं कि जो वेस्ट पिकर है वो 300 बार झुकता है, तब उसको ₹5 मिलते हैं। आपने ये भी अपील करी कि पूर्ण समाज को वेस्ट पिकर के साथ हैंड शेक करना चाहिए, और उससे भी बड़ी बात कि उनका मान सम्मान करेंगे, तभी ये हम प्लास्टिक प्रदूषण को समाप्त कर पाएंगे। थैंक यू, बहुत बहुत धन्यवाद संतु जी। We are running against time because we had decided to close it at 1:15, sorry, at 5:15. But I think the kind of active audience I have, I will get into this question and answer session. What I would suggest is keep your question in very limited words. If you have an observation to make, you are again welcome, but keep it less than a minute, so that we can give as many people a chance as possible. We'll restrict it. We had planned it for 20 minutes, but we'll restrict it for 10 minutes. And thereafter, we would have about 5 to 7 minutes for vote of thanks by my colleague Amitabh. And that is when we'll close the session for today. So the first question I will request, or first observation, I will request Mr. Anup Srivastava, who has been the pioneer of the Foundation for Campaign Against Plastic Pollution, to do that. Yes, Mr. Srivastava.
Thank you very much, Balesh. I will like to observe, Bharti, I was very pleased to hear your talk. It was very lucid and very informative, and you have brought out all issues very clearly. And also, I would like to appreciate what the other two speakers, they spoke very well. And I am very impressed with the quality of discussion which has taken place today. Bharti, I totally agree with you on many things about statistics. I also have doubts about certain statistics. For example, while the informal sector has played a very great role in India in recycling, but I think the plastic industry all the times claiming that it has, we are able to recycle 60%. I think that is on a higher side. You also told about underestimate of the plastic consumption, which two figures you mentioned. And similarly, I find this kind of dichotomy in many other statistics. We can discuss it when we have opportunity in future. And the most appealing thing I have picked up from three of you is that the informal sector has to be strengthened. And this is what had been my thinking also all along. Firstly, why should the waste pickers be expected to pick up the waste from the garbage or from the litter that people are creating or from the landfills? Actually, I will go a step further. The informal sector need not be strengthened, but it should be taken formally into the system. And under the EPR, it should be the responsibility of the producers of the plastic to actually take these so-called waste pickers. I would like to call them resource pickers. If somebody's waste is actually somebody else's resource, they are picking up resource. They should not be called waste picker. They should be called resource picker. That is one thing. And why should they not be taken formally into the system? These private sector companies, they should engage them formally into their system for collection of the waste, collection of the plastic waste created by their products from house to house and from the retailer shop. On the EPR framework that the government of India has recently notified and on which the people were supposed to give their comments by 6th of December, we have also given our comment. And one comment that I have given is that the part in which they expect the producers, importers, and brand owners to implement a scheme like deposit return schemes and the fixation of price for the collection of waste, that should not be optional. That should be made mandatory. So I have given that our organization view to them like that. I would like your comment, your reaction to this, Bharti. What do you have to say in this regard?
Well, thank you. I don't know if you can see me or not, but nonetheless, what we did at Chintan was we were working with a group of people. Also, we've implemented EPR. And we actually, if you notice, this EPR leaves out the ULBs or the municipalities. So first of all, that's a huge lacuna, because who will see what is happening? We don't want plastic recycling and EPR to go the e-waste way, which is a bunch of paper trading, and very little recycling actually happens in reality. So we pointed that lacunae, and we said that the informal sector, you have to look at EPR should not just be about picking up waste based on the percentage of your sales. You actually have to invest some of it in upgrading and formalizing informal sector. You can't just convert informal sector into your buyers and become predators of the value chain. Instead, you have to actually give back, because all these years they've been picking the plastic. So I totally agree with that point of view. And I think the third and the most important thing really is that how much should you, just because one day you can pick up 100% of your waste, which actually is not possible. But in the new proposed rules, it makes that absurd proposition. That does not mean that you should strive for that. You need to eliminate these kinds of materials. So I totally agree with you on the EPR rules. I really think they need to be very differently framed.
Thank you.
Thank you, Bharti, for that response. Mrs. Vandana Bahel has an observation to make. May I request Vandana to please make her observation?
It has been an excellent session, and we really enjoyed every point which has been raised. Is so practical and so close to the heart. And I think we can, even involve the school children and the young children to participate in this campaign. Like even, stopping the crackers started at the school level. So I feel this can be done. And we have to actually educate the people, inform them, make them aware, and make it a part and parcel of our lives that we have to do waste management. A great session. Thank you so much.
Thank you. And I just want to ask everybody that Chintan with Waste Pickers comes, if in your colonies you do a drive, we can give you awareness material. We'll pick up e-waste, we'll pick up plastic waste, including things like chips. We will give you a carton when it's full. We'll come pick it up. So please, take advantage of this, and let's all join hands.
Thank you, Vandana, for that observation. You will be happy to know that even in today's session, there are few school students who have participated. Now we have a query from Devinder Maan to Santuji. Yes, Devinder?
सर थैंक यू, ये बहुत ही इंटरेस्टिंग सेशन है. सभी पैनलिस्ट का थैंक यू बालाजी सर. सर मेरा संतु सर से एक क्वेश्चन है कि रैग पिकर्स, वेस्ट पिकर्स हैं, जो भी ये सेग्रीगेशन करते हैं, इनको कोई सर्टेन नॉलेज होती है? मतलब वो ऐसा कुछ ट्रेनिंग टाइप होता है, या फिर वो उनका जैसे वो रैग पिक्स करके बेचते हैं उनको, तो उसके हिसाब से वो सेग्रीगेशन करते हैं कि किस रेट से बिकता है, कैसे बिकता है? तो मेरा ये संतु सर से क्वेश्चन है. और संतु सर आप बहुत ही अच्छा काम कर रहे हैं, बहुत ही अच्छा काम.
सर सबसे पहले मैं बताना चाहूंगा कि चिंतन के जो डायरेक्टर श्रीमती भारती चतुर्वेदी जी हैं, हम लोग उनके साथ ही काम करते हैं. और चिंतन ने प्लास्टिक पे ही नहीं, जब से चिंतन काम कर रहा है, वो एक एक चीज पे जो चीज नया आता है वो हमारे लोगों के बीच में लाते हैं, वो ट्रेनिंग देते हैं. और ट्रेनिंग देने के बाद, जैसे अब पहले क्या था कि लोग चाय के गिलास जो होता था, गर्म चाय पी लेता था, प्लास्टिक के डब्बों में बच्चों को खाना दे देता था. हम लोग अपनी बात कर रहे हैं, लेकिन चिंतन ने जो ट्रेनिंग दिया, जिससे हम सीखे, और हम ही नहीं सीखे, हजारों लोग सीखे, लाखों लोग सीखे हिंदुस्तान के अंदर. और हम लोग वहां से ट्रेनिंग लेके अपने लोगों को भी सिखाते हैं और ट्रेंड करते हैं. पैसा तो बाद में आता है, और ट्रेनिंग चिंतन देता है कि प्लास्टिक से फायदा नुकसान क्या होता है, और जो क्वालिटी बनता है उसके लिए हम लोग खुद ट्रेनिंग देते हैं, क्योंकि उसमें HD अलग होता है, डब्बा अलग होता है, PP अलग होता है, PVC अलग होता है, कड़क अलग होता है, सुपर अलग होता है, क्रिस्टल अलग होता है, सीट अलग होता है. तमाम तरह के, अगर क्वालिटी में अगर आप अंदर जाना चाहेंगे तो 151 क्वालिटी से भी ज्यादा आपको प्लास्टिक में मिलेगा। सब यही तो हम कहना चाह रहे हैं कि मेन जो प्रॉब्लम है सेग्रीगेशन का है, और सेग्रीगेशन कौन कर रहा है? तो वेस्ट पिकर कर रहा है। तो वेस्ट पिकर के साथ अगर सब लोग काम करना शुरू कर दें, हम क्या करते हैं, हम प्राइवेट कंपनी तो ले आते हैं, लेकिन नॉलेज नहीं होता है, उनके पास डिग्री है, सब कुछ है, लेकिन सेग्रीगेट करना सबसे महत्वपूर्ण जिम्मेदारी हम सब का है। और वो वेस्ट पिकर सेग्रीगेट करके रिसाइकलिंग के लायक बनाता है। घर जब आप बनाते हैं तो पहले पिलर होता है, तो वेस्ट पिकर आपका पिलर है, उसके बाद आपका घर बाद में रंग रोगन होता है। तो हम रंग रोगन की बात करते हैं, छत की बात करते हैं, लेकिन पिलर की कभी बात नहीं करते हैं। तो वेस्ट को सेग्रीगेशन करना बहुत जरूरी है, और हम लोग ट्रेनिंग देते हैं और लोग ट्रेंड होते हैं। थैंक यू सर।
Thank you, sir. Thank you very much, sir.
धन्यवाद संतोष जी. I will now request Dr. Satish Singhal, who has a query for Dr. Joshi. So, Dr. Singhal, you may please raise the query.
Thank you, Mr. Balesh Kumar. And I have a question for Dr. Joshi, that I'm involved in the paramedical education for more than 3 decades. Why we should not make a compulsory subject in the paramedical or the medical education, and even as a compulsory subject in 12th standard, whether it is an art stream or a commerce stream or a medical stream, whatever it may be, but it should be a compulsory subject. In fact, it should not be an elective subject. And a student should be given a sufficient knowledge for this pollution and its control, and how to improve this. So when a student at the 11th and 12th level, he is sufficient to gain the knowledge, and he can be a great supportive and curative and a person who can be helpful to the society. So I want to mention that. Thank you.
See,
Dr. Joshi, would you like to respond?
no, I think it's a very valid question, but unfortunately, it is the low value attached to these issues that we are not able to integrate into this mainstream education system. I mean, with my own experience, we had our colleagues who were there in the Medical Council of India, and we told them that at least you increase and give some more hours for the education of these subjects in the MBBS course. But then our suggestion was turned down. They said, no, there's so many important issues. So you see, the whole, even that's what I said. I mean, my own medical colleagues and also the other environmental education people, they have little understanding of the subject. I give an example. Once Mr. M.C. Mehta, he filed a writ petition in the Delhi High Court that every Delhiite should be made to wear mask to protect him from air pollution. So the Secretary of Health, he called me and said, Dr. Lucy, this is a big problem. How can we issue a mandatory advice that everyone should wear a mask? What is your advice? So I just prepared a document and it was submitted to High Court. High Court accepted that it would be an advisory. It can't be a mandatory requirement. So these are the, I mean, unless you have an understanding of these issues, you cannot drive it and get it included in the syllabus. But I fully agree that this is what is happening in the Western world, that all these things are taught to the children at the very young age, and so they grow up having these habits, like they will not throw waste here and there, they will not spit. Everything you find in their curriculum in the school age, how to drive a bicycle. In England, you cannot ride a bicycle unless you have taken bicycle lessons in the school. So I fully agree that there is a great need to at least have some kind of an orientation on these environmental health issues. And otherwise, we can't, make a country sustainable in the long run. That is, I would say. Thank you. Thank you for question.
Thank you, Dr. Joshi. Now, may I request Mr. Alok Srivastava to make his observation?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Balesh. I just had a few questions, for the speakers to update on number one, whether ITRC in Lucknow, that is Industrial Toxicology Research Center, is doing any work on plastic disposals, etc. Number two was on the corals bleaching in Australia in the Great Barrier Reef, and number three was on the mitigation of or the reuse of plastic waste in laying the mixing it up with the waste, plastic waste, mixing up with bitumen to plaster the roads is of use. How far are we arriving at on these issues? Thank you.
Bharti, may I
Yeah.
request you to take the
Yeah.
questions, please?
I'll be very brief. I know we've run out of time. So, bitumen, roads, whether we use plastic or rubber crumb, there's a lot of technology there. There's always the question around plastics about whether those plastics are actually disintegrated or whether they become microplastics. There are a few studies that show that eventually, with weathering and water and condensation, microplastics do leak in or leach into lower layers. So that's still a gray area. I'm not sure about what the state of research is that you asked. And what was your third question? What was your...
That was on information regarding regarding the coral bleaching in in the Great Barrier. Yeah.
So talking of coral bleaching, a lot of it is in fact due to climate change and heating temperatures, and plastics mostly come from there's a petroleum based product, and as you know, fossil fuels are a very key cause. Their extraction and their usage, as well as their refining into multiple other products, is a very key cause of climate change. So I think the overall dynamic has to be shifted very rapidly from the fossil fuel world, which includes plastics. So if you want to fight climate change, so in a really indirect way, you can make the link. I wouldn't call it the number one challenge, but I do see the big picture here.
Thank you, Bharti,
Right.
for that. One last interjection. Mrs. Nirmala Menon wanted to observe something about Santuji. Yes, Nirmala.
Hello.
Yes, Nirmala, we can hear you.
Yeah, sir. So I just wanted to ask Santuji, if since he's going to many places and is a part of many forums, can he tell us the best practices followed in these, especially in this associations, residential associations, so that we can also campaign in my area or my, there are many friends who would want to know how do we segregate the waste and ensure that it is disposed of safely or recycle safely. So Santuji
Nirmala, can I just come in and answer that briefly?
Yes, ma'am.
Just taking other people's also. So what overall both waste pickers and grassroots workers say is, number one, if we can go and talk to residents and talk to them about segregation. Number two, all the plastics that they segregate, if we can help them upgrade the waste picker in their colony. This means helping the waste picker not to mix the waste up after you segregate it, helping them to compost so that the wet waste doesn't go into the landfill where it creates greenhouse gases, and not to mention its transportation also creates greenhouse gases apart from catching fire on the landfill. So they feel they can really help, and if with a little more money, the waste picker can actually do the composting, or a second waste picker could, not the one doing doorstep collection. The waste that the waste picker wants to take away, he should take away because that's important for the livelihood. But the parts that don't get taken away, along with electronic waste and other kinds of things, if you store it, then pick my trash, can come and take it away. That's the third thing. And the fourth thing that they all say is that they like it if colonies, cooperate with them and work with the municipality, so that the municipality is supposed to be under the Swachh Bharat Sarvekshan, supposed to give a bunch of things to informal sector. And if we can tell you what those are and you start, bugging the DM or the municipality, then we can collectively not only get a better deal for the waste picker and upgrade the waste picker, but get a better deal for everyone on the planet. So
Yeah,
please
Bharti,
feel
and
free to reach out.
sorry, but Bharti, you were mentioning that you do provide those cartons to segregate
Yeah, that's what
Yeah,
I said.
I
We
would love
provide
to know about
cartons.
that. Yeah.
Yeah, please reach out if you would. Balesh, what should I do? Should I give?
Yes, fine. I'll ensure that she's able to reach you, right?
Yeah. Please do, and I would be happy to.
Yeah,
Okay.
thank you, Bharti.
Thanks.
Yeah,
Right.
thank you.
Thank you, Nirmala. Thank you,
Thank you,
Bharti.
sir. Yeah.
Now we come to the last concluding part of today's webinar. My request, my friend and colleague Amitabh, to please give the vote of thanks.
Thank you very much, sir. It's my privilege to extend gratitude to all the three panelists for sparing their valuable time and to be with us, share their thoughts. And I find it so gratifying to listen to them, and they have really made a lot of value addition to our own campaign. So on behalf of Foundation for Campaign Against Plastic Pollution, we are very thankful to all the three panelists, Bharti ji, Dr. Joshi, and Santu ji. Very briefly, I would like to thank them for the main points that they made, so as to summarize for the benefit of all the participants and the viewers. I think we really came, Bharti ji, we came to know about Chintan, uski philosophy, aap jo kaam kar rahe hain. I think it's a really pioneering work that you're doing in this area. Apart from research, advocacy, I think one thing that struck us was that you are really working on the ground, creating awareness. And we in fact, we were very, your ideas about compostable plastics were useful for us, and that we are still worried about large pieces of plastics, quite ignorant about the harms that the microplastics are creating in the ecosystem, and especially the marine ecosystem. And there's too much of focus on plastic bags, and I think we are ignoring the other aspects of the plastic, which are going into the multi-layer plastic packaging. In fact, your work regarding your ideas regarding extended producers' responsibility, and that you are telling the producers to pick, but then these are fraught with problems and challenges, that how do you incentivize those producers to work in areas like small areas like Dehradun, Haldwani, which are very fragile ecosystems, and some of them are nesting sites of birds and other wildlife. So probably your idea about the community recycling or control of and decentralized recycling, we were not much aware about it. Community control of decentralized recycling is a good idea, I think. And probably at the end, the three things that you gave us was that do we really need to have alternatives, or we can reuse and stress more on reuse? Can we augment informal sector? I think we need to, and there is a need for constantly repeating messages in the public space to create awareness and create awareness and create awareness. I think that is the way forward. Thank you very much for sharing your thoughts. Dr. Joshi, I think your insight into the e-waste and the biomedical waste management, I think we got to know how we have by solving some problems, we have created more problems and harm for us through the plastics, more notorious plastics like PVC, which is part of the biodegradable, which is part of the biomedical system actually, and has become and a good deal of that contains lead and cadmium and chromium that you explained, that leaches into the blood and causing more harm. Also about the e-waste that you gave us the insight about the PVC, which is forming a lot of voluminous e-waste is being dumped in India without knowing the consequences of this. And there's a high level of lead again going into the blood of the workers who are segregating it into the lungs and their blood finally, and causing hazards, medical hazards actually for them. Again, संतु जी, थैंक यू फॉर हमारे से बात करने के लिए, और आपने हमें बताया कि सेग्रीगेशन कितना इम्पोर्टेंट है, और जो रैक पिकर्स हैं और जो वेस्ट पिकर्स हैं उनका कितना महत्वपूर्ण काम है, और सेग्रीगेशन एक बहुत ही इम्पोर्टेंट एक स्किल है, और जिसके लिए चिंतन के साथ आप काम कर रहे हैं, और आपके जज्बे को हम सलाम करते हैं। आपके जो रैक पिकर्स हैं वो मान सम्मान के काबिल हैं, और हमको लगता है कि चिंतन के साथ एफकैप जरूर कोलैबोरेट करेगा अलग अलग एरियाज में, और हम वी विल ट्राई एंड फाइंड आउट ways in which we can collaborate with Chintan and start working together in some areas. Thank you very much, all three of you, all the three panelists.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Right.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
I also thank our moderator for today, Balish Kumar sir, and Anup sir for spearheading this campaign, this literacy webinars, which have been quite useful. Thank you all.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Very much. We close now. Thank you.
Thank you, everybody. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Thank you there. Thank you very much.
Thank you.